exposed to this, and that led to this particular condition. Even for the clear areas that we've got linked to dioxin exposure, it's still based on sampling and scientific modeling. You're never going to have a kind of one-to-one correspondence for most of the diseases and conditions that we're talking about, which is why it ultimately comes down to policy and political decisions. Yeah, sir.
Korea.
Mm-hmm.
It has been used there. What is the situation with the compensation to Korean War?
So my current understanding of this, and if there's folks who have different information, please let me know. Agent Orange was actively used in the DMZ between North and South Korea in 1967 and 1968. And even though most of the evidence suggests that it was actually South Korean troops who did the spraying, it was there, it was used, it was tested, and there were American troops there. So I believe it's 1967, 68. I don't know the exact dates. It might just be calendar years. If you were stationed in the DMZ during those 2 years, you should be able to get service-related disability benefits for all the conditions that the VA currently acknowledges being linked to Agent Orange exposure.
So you have to be in the DMZ.
It was during the DMZ, yeah. It was not, Agent Orange was not used, and these other herbicides were not used tactically during the Korean War itself. It was used during the Pueblo crisis, 67 and 68, as tensions were ratcheted up with North Korea. They went out and tried to defoliate and clear out a lot of the DMZ, so that's when it was used. Sure.
You said, what, May 9th that this lady will be in?
I'll let Dick.
That's for my event.
Say what?
That's for my May the 9th,
May 9th.
back in Plymouth, Canton, where I come from.
Right.
We'll be staging our second town hall. The subject is the generational skipping of this disease.
Right.
Children, etc.
In other words, they'll have more medical about this.
Yes, Dr. Trudy Bennett's coming. She's an MD, retired professor, etc., etc. It's lengthy. It's been to Vietnam more than once, several times to my knowledge. Spent a lot of time studying this. So we're going to tape that so we can bring it back to show to you folks. And
we're going to try to put together a bus of a half a dozen to a dozen guys to go down there to this this event, because it's so important that we've all got to do everything we can to get involved with it. Dick, let me give it back to you.
this is at Northville High School in Northville, Michigan. Now the lady in the back has been very patient with her hand there. Maybe you want. There are a total of 41 illnesses recognized by the VA, 14 of which I can read the list for. I'm going to pass on to Bob here. My information, I essentially will have to read. Why? Because I've gotten emails that are maybe no more than a week old. This is keeping me current, like Dr. Martini was saying, what's going on. This is all forwarded to me by Dr. Bennett, okay? In fact, just as a side note, she's got people, environmental studies in Vietnam and what they're doing right now, emailing me from Vietnam and what's going on over there. There's many different directions, many ways we can talk about this subject. I'm going to throw in one here I don't think I've even told you about. I'm 40 years retired Ford Engineering. What did I do after stopping engineering? I started a historical farm. By chance, I was introduced to a lady, Dr. Connie Boris. She's a nationally noted environmentalist. Guess who's dealt with the subject of Agent Orange and cleaning up hotspots in the United States? So I've been very fortunate to work with this lady. She's taught me a lot on hands-on. In terms of farming, I don't use any chemicals. She taught me that and why I don't use chemicals and what's in this stuff, which she told you about. I have an uncle, a retired farmer. We got talking on this subject. He says, oh yeah, we used it for spraying weeds around the fence post, what have you. I said, what did they tell you in handling it? Fully clothed face mask. What if you got it on the skin? Immediately wash it off. What about the containers it came in? Big warning labels. What to do with this stuff? But none of our troops, to my knowledge, is his photograph. He showed one there. You know, they didn't have anything on but their pants and boots. They're handling stuff, and I doubt if anybody warned them on the use and handling of it. What a difference. The American farmer was warned, but not the soldier. Same company making the same product.
Are there any dioxins being used currently in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, that area?
There's no herbicides being used in the same ways. When we're doing poppy eradication and things like that, crop destruction of the poppies over there, there are some herbicides being used. The 2,4,5-T hasn't been used in minerals for a long time. So to the extent that we're using herbicides, they still have 2,4-D in them. And there are some people out there who are concerned about 2,4-D and its potential effects, but so far the evidence is really limited. So it's really the 2,4,5-T which has been phased out now 30 years.
So, for you folks interested, I'm going to give this flyer to Bob. It's about the town hall May 9th, okay? And we have a congressman who's going to speak on federal benefits for veterans. State Senator Patrick Colbeck, who's been here several times, he's going to speak on state benefits. Trudy Bennett, as I mentioned, Moki Porter, she's an authority on the field. Bob Cummin, Agent Orange Riders. Lori Weber, now she is a very interesting case to all of you, if you knew who she was. 31 years old, she had to quit teaching because of all the illnesses. They trace back to Agent Orange. Her children have problems, trace back to Agent Orange. This lady will be a speaker. She's like 38 years old, I believe, now. I don't know if you know of her, Lori Weber. She has spoken at some town halls and what happened to her and her children. And Nancy Switzer, Associates of Vietnam Veterans of America. Dr. Martini has graciously consented to come back and be part of our Q&A for this presentation last hour to take questions from folks like yourself. What, you know, benefits, what happened to you and why it happened, things of this nature.
What's the starting time in Northville?
We will start registration at 7. The event will start at 8 a.m. Now, I live in Canton Township. I'm 144 miles from this facility. So I know what the drive is, because I'm here in Grand Rapids frequently. My wife and I attend church in Grand Rapids, but live in Canton. That's something else. Anyway, if you can't come, we're going to bring the video back, and we're going to talk about it. Because Bob's already advised me he'd like to do more talks like this, because the legal aspect of it, the veterans benefits, etc., the emails I get, this is changing almost daily. Somebody has to sit on top of it. Now, like our chapter finally convinced the leadership, which I'm a part of, to monthly start to report back to the veterans and what's going on with health issues, benefits, etc. Now, do we have a VSO here in the audience?
I think he had to leave.
Okay. My involvement in this subject and what I've learned from Dr. Martini, I'm on path to become a VSO myself. Because I'm not happy when I'm hearing what's happened to veterans. It's about it.
Those of you who don't know, VSO, Veteran Service Officer.
Yeah. Now,
Mike Frank's down in the corner office.
do we have Vietnam veterans here as far as membership in the VVA National? You get the VVA magazine every 2 months?
I got it, but then didn't get.
Okay. November, December issue. Agent Orange Revisited. GMOs and Nation's Food Supply. This subject is not going away. Okay? It's there, big time. New Gentle. My wife is a member of the state bar. She gets her bar journal monthly. She handed it to me and it came, I think, last Friday. Military and Veterans Laws. Guess what? Talking about benefits for veterans. So I say this is an ongoing subject. I'm going to try hard to keep current, back to my chapter and what's going on. My VVA chapter, 270 members, I believe. Is that about right, Joe?
Not counting ABVA.
Yeah, 270 members. As of this meeting last month, we were told we're the 23rd largest chapter in the United States. Second in the state. And some reason we've become the role model because of the town hall we did and will be doing, informing veterans what they need to know to get benefits. Okay? Now, to be sure, I saw one gentleman out there with the Agent Orange book. The other one, The Invention of Ecocide. You alluded to it, Chemical Warfare. It's quite a good book. Dr. David Zerler, Washington, D.C., I believe. He talks about the history and development of it. If I can fall back for a moment, it was about 1941. Correct me if I'm wrong on the date, please. About the same time as Pearl Harbor, the scientists came up with a formula to make this stuff. He looked at it and he says, well, we're going to be fighting the Japanese in the jungles. So he went to the government and the military, says, this is what I have, can help you defoliate to better help you fight. He got up to President Roosevelt, he looked at it. Now, the United States had never signed the 1925 Geneva Protocol, which came about because of World War I and poison gas and things of that nature. President Roosevelt looked at it, says, we're not going there. I think this is chemical warfare. So we never used this stuff. He alluded to it, the British in Malaysia in the 50s used it fighting guerrillas. And I only found this out last week in reading emails. The Portuguese used it in Angola, fighting people there. So there was some background. But in reading the detail and the use and the history of it, President Kennedy kept a tight rein on it, a very tight rein. He wanted to know what was happening and what it was doing. March of 1965, he says in his book, Operation Ranch Hand went by the thousands of gallons. It was no longer drip drip. It went bananas. 1965, the first combat Marines arrived at Da Nang. March of 65, Operation Rolling Thunder, all-out bombing of North Vietnam. So you can see what happened. This was an all-out effort to win. But, like he said, we were using technology for lack of manpower. We were going to whip these poor people that had maybe a rifle by using technology. And this was going to be done. Now, in the last 2 weeks, I've encountered several people, like you say, almost daily. I belong to the 101st Airborne Chapter, Southeast Michigan. These people know about our town hall. I had people approach me, served in the infantry of the 101st. They told me about the spraying, and they saw what happened from the spraying. Both these people told me they have 100% disability. Yeah, so, you know, it's not good, the problems they have. 2 days later, I called somebody, a friend I hadn't talked to in a while. He didn't sound good. I had a hard time talking to him, so I put his wife on the phone. He suddenly come down with a lot of symptoms, Agent Orange. U.S. Marine Corps, 1967, Vietnam. Okay?
Dick, I think there were a couple more questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody's got a question, please. I'll get into the other stuff. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a daughter of a Vietnam vet, and I also am on a Facebook group that of children of Vietnam vets. And one of the questions they have as a group is there? You spoke to a lot of people. You've seen a lot of people. Is there still hope that there's going to be help? That there's going to be? Is there still interest? Do you see the fight going on? What do you see?
I think from a scientific standpoint, I'll let Dick talk about benefits. From a scientific standpoint, it's not for a lack of evidence at this point. I mean, it certainly is, but it's not for a lack of trying to find that evidence.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical that in the time we've got right now with Vietnam veterans, that there's going to be a radical shift in our thinking about, or the evidence for connections between Agent Orange exposure and second, third generation Vietnam folks. I would be skeptical. I just think it's 30 years we've seen a major expansion of the other benefits in a lot of ways from where we were in 77, 78. Not a lot of movement on birth.
Yeah. I mean, the children, like myself, they're saying there's a lot of suffering going on, and it's going on the next generation, just so you've seen in the veterans.
Legislation didn't get out of committee, was defeated
41.
last month in U.S. Congress. Yeah. Legislation did not get out of committee, was defeated last month in U.S. Congress that benefit Vietnam veterans and Agent Orange. The reason it was defeated is everybody's heard of legislation in riders. Well, they had other wars, other military people from the U.S. were in, that was all thrown in the same bill. So that's what defeated it, and Vietnam veterans got nowhere. Okay? Unfortunately, that type of stuff happens.
Marcia, you got a question?
Well, a comment, maybe more than a question, being a widow of a Vietnam veteran
Yeah.
who was 100%, rated 100% disabled, and when he passed away, and maybe somebody, this will benefit somebody else, what they put on Walter's death certificate, and because he wasn't, I'll call it in the system for 10 years, there's a 10-year frame, because I applied for widow benefits, but they said because he wasn't in there for 10 years, even though he had prostate cancer way back when, we never knew about the connection between Agent Orange and prostate cancer. Well, my reason for coming here was to hear more about Agent Orange, and then also to, because the VA is telling me I have to prove of what Walter died from, what's on his death certificate, is linked to Agent Orange. So they're putting it back on me to do that, so I'm hoping to gain more information by coming here, but I'm sure there's other people out there that are also running into that. And also, and you probably know about this, another subject for Vietnam veterans and their widows, is that now you can apply if you're